Yes, well, thanks for having me. So I'm going to tell you about the Ashburton Community Fridge, which you can see a picture of here. This is a project that's been going for just under a year and has already become a really much loved part of the town. So what is a community fridge? Well, it's basically a means of sharing food that would otherwise be thrown out. Food is collected from supermarkets, suppliers, or farmers, or it's donated by individuals and placed in a publicly accessible fridge and boxes next door, as you can see here, for anyone in the community to take. Next slide, please. So we set this up with three goals in mind. Obviously, the first one is to reduce food waste and thus lower carbon emissions. As you probably all know, food waste, if it were a country, would be the third largest emitter in the world after the US and China. So quite shocking amounts of food is wasted. Not only is this bad for the climate, but obviously it's bad for people who could be eating it. So we seek to address that, and we also seek to some extent, help with food poverty, because people on low incomes, as well as others, can access the fridge and supplement what they would otherwise eat. We're obviously not a food bank. We do get a lot of fresh food that people might not otherwise be able to afford to buy. And the third consideration is we're trying to educate people. In the long run, we hope to have cookery workshops and what things people can cook with food that's currently plentiful, and we're getting a lot of like courgettes in the summer or parsnips in the winter. So there's that threefold approach. Next slide, please. It was set up as using a really wonderful manual, which you can see here. There's an organization called Hubbub, national organization, which has a community fridge network that anyone can join, and they have all kinds of resources, including this manual, which we used. We didn't follow it slavishly because we don't do some of the weighing in and weighing out that they recommend, but it has got really everything you could need to know, as well as lots of document templates for posters and also for many of the other documents that you need. There's currently 250 fridges at least in the UK, with another 250 being funded by the co-op to set up this year. So, you know, we're by no means trailblazers. We're following a well-trodden path. Next slide, please. So we are actually a project of the Ashburton Climate Emergency Group. So we had a food subgroup, and this was one of the projects we decided to pursue. Because our town council declared a climate emergency and then proceeded to do absolutely nothing about it, they're very helpful to us because we are actually doing something. So they have given us support by providing a location. So we're in a sort of outdoor shelter that was built around the back of the town hall. They pay for our electricity for the fridge, and they helped us with some funding. A couple of councillors gave us some money, but we also got funding from local businesses, and various other Team CVS gave us some money, and we got something called a Magic Little Grant. So setup funding was really not a problem. Yeah, if I can have the next slide, please. So talking about the practicalities, we opened in May. Well, actually, we took our first delivery of food in late March. The official opening was in May. We started planning this project in October 2020. So it took about 6 months to get it up and running. And this is pretty much standard. Some places have paid coordinators. We didn't. We had me and then a core group, some of whom are pictured in this newspaper article. And we basically, in the 6 months, we built our shelter, we purchased a fridge, we found volunteers, we trained volunteers, we got signed up with the environmental health people, so we got our 5-star rating, and we also signed up with Fair Share and Neighbourly, who are the two national organisations that coordinate donations from most of the major supermarkets. All of this takes time. So it was quite a marathon rather than a sprint. And we also had help from CAG, Devon, Community Action Groups of Devon, through whom we get our public liability insurance and also some assistance with risk assessments and so on. So we had a lot of help. And in May, we opened. Next slide, please. One of the things we had to get clear with people is what food we do and don't take. So because of the risks involved of having meat or fish or things like cooked rice or bean sprouts that haven't been properly refrigerated or have stayed a bit longer than they should in the fridge, we decided just not to take them. So we don't have to worry. No one's going to get poisoned from anything that we're offering. People, as well as supermarkets, people can put stuff in, but it has to be unopened and obviously within date, and we can't take anything that's been cooked in people's homes. So next slide, please. So we are now running sort of in full operational mode, and we have currently 36 active volunteers, and they are divided into drivers who pick up the food and fridge monitors who clean the fridge and check its contents twice a day. We have someone morning and evening each day of the week. And the morning ones will also pick up from our local co-op in the morning if they've got anything for us. So we get some stuff from small local shops, and also people around the town put stuff in. We get all kinds of 25 cabbages appeared the other day with no idea where from, but anyway, they all went really quickly. The food just flies out of the fridge, absolutely flies out. But it is lots of people taking a bit rather than people taking huge quantities. So we pick up from Tesco 3 times a week, Asda 2 to 3 times a week. These are in Newton Abbot, which is our nearest town, and a lot of people are already going to Newton Abbot for business, so they're not always special journeys. They're often teamed up with other things. We pick up from Booker's once a week, Morrison's once fortnight. Devon and Cornwall Food Action bring up a lot of stuff to Bovey, which we get on a Tuesday, a lot of pasties that are misshapen from them. And Food and Community, thank you, Chantal, your wonderful organic fruit and veg, which is everyone's favorite when we get that. And it's amazing how quickly an entire fridge of broccoli can disappear. We don't monitor the fridge. It is open 24/7. So anyone can take it, and we encourage it to be seen as a community resource, not something just for poor people. And I think that accounts for its popularity. We get stuff like milk dropped off. A lady works in a nursery in Torbay, and if there's not as many kids as usual, they have milk left over at the end of the day. So she brings it and puts it in the fridge. Someone who works at Riverford, they sometimes have extra stuff. She'll bring that back and stick it in the fridge. And all of this without us actually even knowing about it. Sometimes we just hear about it. Right. Hear about it from other people. So next slide, please. So things to consider if you want to set up a fridge is, oh yeah, this is just a sign we put up to encourage people not to take too much, because some people think people are taking too much. Next slide, please. So, okay, the location is absolutely key. Ours is very accessible and very visible, and people feel comfortable going there, and that is an absolutely key consideration. The other key thing is, are there enough sources of food? So we got some slots at Tesco, for example, because we were willing to pick up Friday and Saturday evenings, which no other organisation was. But a lot of the slots from the major supermarkets are already claimed, and the amount of waste from supermarkets is beginning to decrease as they get their ordering algorithms better. So before you actually decide to buy a fridge and set it up, make sure, because from just the local shops here in town, we wouldn't get anything like enough, and it wouldn't really justify having one. Last slide, please. It's really appreciated, though, by the population, and as well as obviously providing food for people, I was surprised to discover it's become a bit like the village well. People say how much they appreciate it as a community place. while they're queuing to get their veg or crisps or whatever they're waiting for, they chat to other people. And when we did a little survey on Facebook, at least half the people said they valued it for the sense of community and the sort of sense of solidarity that it gives them. So that was something we hadn't expected, but anyway, I did it in 10 minutes.